My
that's
pug.
so great. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Renegade Society radio show. Here we are again. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, and I'm so glad you are all here. Before we get into everything, I just want to tell you about some exciting things that are coming up for us. So we do have the Renegade Con happening. That will be next weekend from the 9th to the 11th, and you've got to come check it out. We've got panels, we've got interviews, we have workshops, we've got tons of game demos, tons of games for you to see, tons of new stuff, and the tickets are free. So go online, get your free tickets today, and start making that awesome schedule. And we've also got, for Power Rangers fans, the Morphin Meet happening, which is October 23rd to 25th. So that's an action-packed weekend filled with lots of actor appearances. Like we're going to have Tracy Lynn Cruz, Patrick David. We're going to have Wally Wingert. So there's going to be tons happening and more. Definitely want to check that out if you're a Power Rangers fan like me. And before we get started as well, we do have a giveaway going on today. So that's for Athenium, Mystic Library, and Bargain Quest. And the code word for that will be given later in the show. So keep those ears open. Don't close them. And now I would love to introduce my amazing guest who's with us today. We have Ruel Gaviola. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Amanda, and hello, Renegades. So happy to be here.
Hello. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about like who you are, what you do, where we can find you, you do so many awesome things. So tell us about all of those things.
Yeah, I try to keep busy. It's like I tell my wife, I would keep busy to stay out of trouble. So some of the things I do, I'm a content creator in the board game industry. I write, I podcast, I do live streams, I do videos. You can find my work here at Renegade. I'm one of the regular game players here. Also for Eyesight of the Dragon, Geek and Sundry, the 5x podcast, a bunch of other websites as well. Along with my stream on Twitch at Ruel Gaviola, I do almost a nightly show there now. It's Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m., where I stream games with my friends and family live. And I'm all about the cardboard, so it's all about, playing board games, analog games, and I try to do that as best as I can during these times. I have the game set up here at home and try to share it. But sometimes we do the digital version, so we'll go to like boardgamearena.com or other, like use Steam or something like that. So it's all about the board games with me. I'm also very proud to serve on two committees. One is the Tabletop Writers Guild and also the American Tabletop Awards. So I'm very proud to be part of those committees. And yeah, what you see is what you get. It's all about the games, folks.
I feel like Tabletop Awards is very prestigious. I saw that on, I was looking through some of your stuff before and I was like, ooh, he's giving out the awards. You know games when people are like, yeah, we need you to help us pick who wins this. That's so great.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be part of that committee. There's so many people in that committee, especially on the American Tabletop Awards, that I have so much respect and admiration for, including Eric Yorko, who I believe was a guest here recently. Also Suzanne Sheldon, Bebo, Becca Scott, bunch of great content creators. And they know the games. We all have our like different tastes and stuff, and we all bring something to the table. And I like to call myself an omni gamer. I pretty much will play anything. I like stuff from like Happy Salmon, the really silly game, to my favorite game, Twilight Imperium, which will take all day and all night.
Very different, two very different flavors.
Yeah, definitely. So I like those games and everything in between. So yeah, I like to think that I bring a different perspective to the awards committees.
Are there any particular gaming mechanics, though, within games that you find that you always tend to gravitate to? Because the one thing I find, I don't consider myself as much of an omni gamer. I tend to be a light strategy gamer most of the time, but I enjoy wacky stuff. I enjoy dexterity games. But I always find there are certain mechanics that just keep popping up. And it can be a totally different game, but if it's got this one thing, I'm like, ooh, this is probably why I like this, because it's got this thing I always like. Do you have anything like that?
I do. I probably gravitate towards worker placement games the most. I love the simple, you take your little worker, place it and do the action on the space. And then there's that tension throughout the game of where, you put a worker and someone else can't go there, or they go first and I can't go to that spot. I love that. And, just one of my favorites well, I guess we could talk about this later, but I was going to say Renegade's Raiders of the North Sea has a very clever worker placement game called Renegade called Raiders of the North Sea, where it's you place a worker, then you take one off as well. I really like that mechanism. So yeah, I'm a big worker placement fan, but I think, I would play basically anything to me, it's all about the experience that I get at the table, whether
Mhm.
it's with friends or family, as long as it's a good game, I'll have fun. And I was actually going to say the one mechanism that I'm not really a big fan of is
Ooh.
social deduction. Okay, I'm not really a big
Oh,
deduction
okay.
fan, right? But
Hmm.
that's interesting to me because, okay, another Renegade game, the Search for Planet X it's like a pure deduction game, and
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
terrible at it. Like I am just, if I was like an actual scientist, like I would like not find anything. I'd probably find an asteroid that's coming to Earth and it's going to blow us all up. But yeah, that game, but it's a
The
really
least
good
helpful
game.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it is a
totally
really
least.
good game.
Yeah, right. And I can appreciate that for what it is. You
See,
play enough
I love
games.
deduction games, so for
Oh,
me,
okay.
I really loved that game. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. Like, and it's one of those things. I don't know if it's just I don't know if I enjoy the pain of like not being able to find that planet or whatever. It stresses me out. Like
Yeah.
intricate notes and someone's found it like 3 turns before me. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know how that happened. But so like you like deduction games, right? So
Yeah, I like deduction games, and I will say the first time we played Search for Planet X, we did not find Planet X.
okay.
So we didn't find it. And then we all like I was actually between two places, and it was the other place that I thought it wasn't at. So it was like a
Oh,
50-50, and
yeah.
I missed it, and I was like, "Oh no." Or actually I think we did find it, but I found it one move too late. That's what it was. And
Yeah.
I was like, if I had gone last time and guessed this thing, that's where it actually was. But the interesting thing to me about that game is that no matter what experience you have playing it, I find it so well designed that afterwards, even if you think you just had the worst experience ever and you're like, oh, that was frustrating, when you finish it, you're like, can we do that again though? Because
Yeah.
there's something I got to check out. So I
Yeah.
love games when you just finish them that make you immediately want to jump back in because you haven't like fully experienced it yet. And you know
Right.
that.
I
Yeah.
totally 100% agree, man. That's like with that game, and like most social deduction games that I've played, like I played it, it's cool, whatever. But that one in
Mhm.
particular is like, oh, I really want to play it again because I know I did something wrong here on this turn, or
Yeah.
I should have known that was there. That was obviously
Mhm.
a comment, Um, but
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
that learning experience, really, I think. And that's why we also, like so many gamers, enjoy playing games, is because when you finish a game, the idea is you learn something and then you're
yeah.
like, well, I got to go back because I've got to explore this now. Now that I have this down, I want to do this. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And I like playing it solo now because there's less
Ooh.
pressure on me to like there's everyone else like oh there's no one else except for me
Yeah.
and this app, right? And
Yeah.
I can sit there and slowly take my notes, like really, get into it and try to figure it out. I still lose, but at least it's not like amongst my friends and family.
Yeah.
It's just by
Not as
myself.
embarrassing. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel you. I still haven't played the solo mode yet, but that is something I was super excited about because
Yeah,
to me, it also reminds me a little bit of Clue, but in space.
totally.
So I mean, it is very different than Clue, but Clue is one of my classic, like when I was a little kid, favorite games. So to me, that really connected with me. And I'm like, ooh, this is like spacey, but there's some Clue elements and this
Yeah.
deduction. So yeah, I feel you. That's a
You
really
are
interesting game.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about the clue connection because
Yeah.
to me, it was just actually physically write on a piece of paper. That was me as a kid, like trying to, oh, is it, it's not
And you
Colonel
take all the
Mustard.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I would
right.
always do that too. And I would make moves to try to psych people out. I did.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for when I get to Search for Planet X levels where I can psych people out by doing things. That's how
I
you know
will
you're
never,
hardcore.
yeah, I will never be at that level, but that sounds awesome.
That's so great. So this year you've actually been doing something really exciting as well. So you've been streaming a board game every day, every weekday or every single day?
So it started as every day, but
Every day.
now, and then it went to every weekday. And
Mhm,
now
mhm.
I've scaled it back to, 4 times a week. So
Okay. So
yeah,
how did you decide this year, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play a board game every day. That's a huge, massive like undertaking to stream that. So,
yeah.
what inspired you to do that?
I mean, it's pure insanity, right? To try to
It
play a game
is.
every day. So
I
that it
love
started
it.
off. Yeah, thanks. It started off actually as a challenge. I challenged myself at the start of the year. I wanted to post content about a board game every day this year, whether it was a video, a live stream, podcast, article I've written, or just photos or whatever. So that's my goal this year is 365, or actually 366 days of board game content. And then when COVID hit back in March, obviously everything changed. And it was then that I think the first or second day after we got the stay-at-home order in California, I talked to my family, do you all want to play a game on Facebook Live? And they're like, sure. And so it was basically, we took our game night and made it a thing where, we're just going to play a game every day, share it with our friends on Facebook Live, and then that was like 31 days straight. And that was like, I call it season 1, right? 31 days straight. And then after that, we went to every weekday, but along with every weekday streaming things, I would post, photos. I'm still doing a podcast and I'm doing articles and stuff. So it was basically every day something. And I've done challenges like this in the past where I wanted to post something every day on my blog, or I would post something about a board game every day for a month, but at the start of this year, I don't know, I had no idea 2020 was going to end up like this. And I said, right, let's do every day. Let's just post something. And yeah. And the funny thing is, Amanda, so the very first day, January 1st, 2020, I posted a picture of me with the box cover for Pandemic. And I was like, oh, and then when the pandemic actually hit, I was like, oh, sorry, folks. I swear it wasn't me. I totally jinxed 2020, but
you're like the Simpsons. You predicted it.
Totally right. Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's how this whole thing started. And, as my family and our work and school schedules have changed, our scheduling for streaming is changing, but, we've done I think it was the last number I looked at, we're at like 125, like 125 different live streams. So that's all 125 different board games. That's one thing I'm really proud of. We played different games. And then along with that, doing streams for, Renegade or BGG and other venues.
I feel like you're still beating so many people, even though you didn't fully do what you thought you were going to do. You're still beating so many people in the fact that you've already played 125 new games this year.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are people that have their, their board game stats apps that are like right now, like, how many have I played? Oh, geez, definitely not 100.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I've always approached these type of goals. So I've done this in the past before on my blog or whatever. I've always approached these goals with the attitude, like, you know what, I'm going to try this and I'm going to do it. But hey, if I miss a day or 2 or 3 or whatever, I mean, I'm not going to sweat it, because let's say I go 100 days straight, then I miss like the next 4 days. Those 100 days, I've done 100 things that I wouldn't have done if I didn't have this challenge, right?
That's true.
I've been able to create something, and hopefully some people find value in it. And, if not, I mean, it's good. There's tons of content. Y'all enjoy what you want to enjoy. I'm going to create what I'm going to create.
I mean, I think it's really inspiring. And I think the other thing as a content creator that you learn when you're making content is that it really isn't about, like, there are people that I know that want to make content. And a lot of the times when we talk about, how do you get started with that? How do you get into that? It's people have these ideas of what they want their content to be, and they make them very high level, like very like everything's got to be perfect, it's got to be professional. And I always say to people, like, just take one thing and try to do that thing really, really well. And once you've got that, add a thing. But don't not make content because not everything is at 150. Like, you're always going to have things you want to be better. And having goals like that, where you can create tons of content, gives you more opportunities to learn and grow and help other people that are engaging with your content learn and grow. So I think that's just really awesome. And I love the way that you approach it, as it's not about the days you missed, it's about the days you actually did it, because look at all this stuff you made. That's awesome. Right.
Thank you. Yeah. And, like you were saying, I think that's really important for anyone, any of y'all watching this right now, you're interested in content creation, like Amanda said, I say just do it, and you're always going to have this ideal of, I want this like full-blown studio, with all the professional mics and cameras and lighting and stuff. I started back in March, seriously, with an old MacBook and an old smartphone. And I literally had my smartphone duct taped to a little thing right above here. It was like, I'll have to postpone it. It is so embarrassing, but you know what? I never looked at it like limitations. I looked at it like opportunities. Like, hey, I do have this. I can make something like that. Yeah, it's not going to look like, something that's on TV or on YouTube or whatever. But you know what? I'm able to connect with people, and we connected with like a lot of friends and family on Facebook, starting on Facebook. And from there, we went to Twitch, and then we found this like totally cool Twitch board game community.
That's so great. I love
Yeah,
that.
right. Isn't it? It's so cool the people you get to connect with, and they learn from you, but you also learn a lot from them. I've learned
Mhm.
so much just talking to people. Hey, yo, what'd you do for this lighting thing? Or how'd you set up your camera, your mic for this? Like, I'm constantly learning, and I love the journey.
Yeah, I think the fun thing can really be engaging within that community with other content creators and with other people that are part of your community and all of the things you can exchange and learn. It's pretty magical. So that's really
Absolutely.
cool.
It is.
So, and other than those challenges of not being able to really get there every day because the pandemic and also all of life, like it sounds like you do a million things and then you're trying to do something on top of that, so I totally feel that struggle.
Yep.
Were there any other specific challenges that you had? Like, I mean, technically that's also very demanding, to do
Yeah.
every day and set up. And do you have a space that you do that in? How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few challenges, as you know, as a content creator, just, to put something out on a regular basis. And so I'm here in the Gaviola game library, is like we call it here. This is our old guest room, and the guest room has now become our game library slash office slash streaming studio slash, we put the extra junk here. Like, it looks nice up here, but you definitely don't want to see the floor right now.
Yeah.
It's like I did an unboxing thing this morning on Facebook where I unboxed a bunch of games, and there's plastic and everything down here. So
Oh my
um
goodness.
yeah, one of the challenges is having that dedicated space. And so when COVID hit, my wife Michelle, she's a teacher, so she had to teach online, and we were sharing space here. Like, I would do a stream, and then I'd move everything out, and she would come in and do her class stuff, and that just wasn't working out. It was just too much. So that was one of the challenges. We ended up using our daughter's old room now. That's Michelle's office now. This is my space. But the other challenges along those lines were finding players. Right, we don't go out to game nights anymore. I'm not gonna, we don't have people come over. Our bubble is very small, so it was just having players was my wife and our daughter every day. And it was cool because for me, we all loved it because it was a chance for us to just do our family game night. We have family game nights to begin with, we just never streamed them, but now it
Mhm.
was like every day, and it was a lot of fun. But to me, it was exciting because I got to see Michelle and Lauren, like, they had never streamed, and by the end of like 30 days they were like pros at it. I'm like,
Love
oh,
it.
y'all don't need me, you could just host a show yourself. Like, I
Right.
don't know why you want me in the camera. But yeah, we had so much fun. And the challenges, not just with the technology, but then after, once schedules started changing, like, how do I figure out a way to continue this, because I really enjoy it. How do
Mhm.
I find a way to continue it with everyone's schedule? So now it's just all about, hey, I know you're working today, but could we play a game on Tuesday? Yeah, sure. And then Lauren, oh, I know you got, class all day. Maybe Monday, can you join me? So it's all about scheduling now. That's my biggest challenge. The technology is always gonna be a challenge for me. I'm a little slow when it comes to learning stuff. So I'm still learning. I tell my friends, I've been continually learning OBS for the last like 6 months, and
Oh my
I get there
goodness,
one day.
yeah. I've never fully gotten OBS.
Okay.
That's you have to. I think the thing with stuff like that is it is very much you still have to approach it as this thing of like, I'm just gonna figure this out and then I'll figure this part out later. As long as I can get it to work,
Yeah.
that's the main thing, right?
Exactly. As long
Yeah.
as your videos going out there to the world somehow, then that's fine. And all the
Yeah.
fancy stuff I'll worry about later.
And I think it's great to the idea of having to figure out not just the space and sort of using it for multiple things, which can also be challenging to be constantly flipping it and moving it and being like, well, I'll just put this in the corner. That's a mess, but no one will see it, so that's fine. and and the idea as well, though, of like I'm also part of a TTRPG stream, and we used to all be in Toronto, where I'm based, and then we all moved to different places. So now I'm still in Toronto. To one other person still in Toronto, but we wanted to continue doing it. So now we're on different time zones, we're in different places, there are different things happening in our lives. But the beautiful thing, I think, when you have a project like that that you're passionate about, that you get to play with your daughter and your partner all at once and just do it regularly, is you make it work, right?
Yep.
When you really
Yeah.
love something. So I think it's really
That's
great you've been able to keep doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, that's so true. As long as, there's one of those things, it's work, but it doesn't feel like a job, so it's something you're passionate about. So it's like, yeah, hey, maybe the scheduling didn't work out this week. Oh well, I'm going to find something else to do. I still love playing games. I still love connecting with people over, the virtual game top nowadays.
Mhm.
So it may be a lot to do, but it's something I enjoy and I love to do. So it doesn't feel like work, even
Yeah.
though it does take up a lot of time and everything else.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it also sounds like you do a lot of things, so I feel like it's a lot of when you have a long day as well, right? Like you start in the morning and you can be working from anywhere from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, just doing
Yep.
work. But the nice thing is when you love it, you're like, well, this is still work and it's still taking energy and effort and time, but I love what I do, so
Yeah.
it's enjoyable and it still feeds me as much as I'm putting out, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. You're sending out, I don't want to get too new agey, but you're sending out those good vibes and they're coming back to you,
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's exactly what it's like. No, you can
yeah.
get new agey with me. I'm about that. I feel
Okay,
that.
cool, cool.
And the other thing too is talking about streaming and all of that. If anyone, by the way, has any questions for Ruel as we're talking about streaming or board games or any of these things, please feel free to put those in the chat and we will get to them later. So you can start plugging those in now so that they're there when we get there. And with streaming, you do a lot of streaming with your family on Renegade channels as well. So how did you get into that? So I can see that you have a lot of games and that I'm assuming you started out playing games, but what was that transition like for you?
Yeah. So yeah. So 5 years ago, I got into modern board games, and funny enough, with the game Pandemic, that was the one I saw. Like a lot of people saw it on Will Wheaton's tabletop on YouTube, and that really
Mhm.
interested me. And so I bought it as a birthday present to myself back in January 2015. Got it, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and that just led down the rabbit hole of I'm going to buy every game out there. No matter, it looks cool, we're buying it. And after a couple of years, well, actually, after about a year or so, I started writing for a website called Isolated the Dragon. They needed a news reporter, basically, someone that would report on board game industry news. So, I applied and got the gig, and I'm still with them, but now I'm writing like bi-weekly articles on like games that I've played recently instead of like hard news. So yeah, I started like that just with writing for websites, and got into podcasting after that. And then I landed a gig with Geek and Sundry.
Mhm.
I did a series of articles on different board game store owners throughout the U.S., and it was as part of their big tabletop day weekend, right? Coverage. We
Yeah.
wanted to, show some,
Yeah,
FLGS owners.
I think I was looking at some of your stuff on Geek and Sundry. That was like in 2017 for you, right? So that was a couple years
Correct.
ago,
Yeah, yeah,
where you were writing about friendly local game stores bringing gamers together in an interesting way over tabletop games, which I
yeah.
thought was like super cute and cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. Just, I would just, basically cold call these owners and say, hey, blah, blah, blah. And we would, get their story. And there's a lot of really interesting stories behind owners. So that led into just a more regular gig with Geek and Sundry. And from there, my editor said, would you ever be interested in being on Game the Game? With Becca Scott. And I was, I watched that show. I was like, yeah, but I've never done any of this stuff. I have no idea. They're all, I just show up the studio. Here's a date and time. I'm like, so I got there, I forgot what the game we played. It was, I think, Lords and Ladies, like this card game. Right.
Okay.
And, the first thing we I get on set. I mean, it's a full on studio at Legendary. I'm
Mhm.
like, whoa. And then they had like this catered food spread. And my mind was just blown. Like, y'all are going to, not only you're paying me to play a game, but you're feeding me. Like, yeah, can we do this like every day, please?
Yeah,
So
I love that.
yeah. So about I so then from that just led to a couple more appearances on Game the Game, and then Renegade came calling. They said, hey, how about you join us for a live stream sometime? Like, yeah, absolutely. And one thing led to another, and I started live streaming with Renegade. I mean, I love the Renegade team. They're just it's just so much fun. Everyone's so cool, and
Everyone is so cool. Can confirm.
right. And Renegades, I mean, before I even was involved with Renegade, like I always loved their games, and
Oh
we'll
yeah.
talk more about those games later, but I really just, I think they put out fantastic products. And for me to be able to play them live with, like, Victor Ortiz, Heidi Smith, Irene Bonner, I mean, just amazing, amazing crew. And so that I started doing that, earlier this year. And then when COVID hit, that was just cut off. It's like, oh, I can't go to any studios anymore. So that's sort of what led me into, what, I'll just do it myself. I really like
Yeah.
doing it. Hey, Michelle, Lauren, what are y'all doing? I can't go to the studio. Why don't we just like do it here at
Figure it
home?
out.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah. So
It's so
that's
good too because people do really need content right now. Like it's people don't realize, I think, all of the level of things that go into making content and why there are people that need to go on a hiatus. But yeah, it's really good that you're doing that because I think I'm sure people are very appreciative of you actually trying to make that work.
thanks. Yeah, it's producing content, and I mean it's fun, and obviously, I mean, we're playing games, it's fun, right? But just it's really it really opened my eyes to just the power of being able to connect with people. We were connecting obviously with our family first. It was real easy. Hey, there's Ruel and Michelle playing games, whatever. And then we'd have like friends of friends drop in. Oh, hi, we're so and so. Oh, okay, cool. And then that's like, hey, we want to buy this game. So people would message me, hey, where do I get this game? I was like, oh, let me send you to the website. That's
Yeah,
easy,
that's so great. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really cool. And then hearing those stories coming back, like, hey, Ruel, just want to let you know we saw you, Michelle and Lauren playing, whatever game. And then months later, they would say, hey, we love this game. We played it like 10 times over the last couple of months. I'm like, that
Ah,
right? That right here, it just hits in the feels, folks. I mean,
yeah.
that's what it's all about, connecting with the tabletop, having fun with the friends and family.
That is what it's all about. Like personally, as a content creator, when it comes to anything board game, my main goal, and I think we're very much on the same page with this, is taking these games and really finding a good space for them. And that's where I will say I think I am also an omni gamer as well, because if you have a game and there's a team of people that put their heart and soul into making this game, that game deserves to have a home. And so it's all about finding the right people. And even if it's not a game that like is super close to my heart, there's definitely someone out there, even if you don't love a game, that probably loves it. So
Yeah.
it's all about connecting those people and helping them find that game.
100%. I wish I
Yeah.
could do like the little meme right here. 100. That's totally true,
100.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel that.
there's a game for everybody, right? I mean,
There
you don't
is.
like this, you can find there's thousands of games published every year, folks. I mean, there's a game for
Mhm.
you out there.
Do you have any friends or any people in your life that really don't like board games?
Um, I would say that I do know I do have friends and family who aren't as passionate about games as I am. They'll I'm sure you have them too in your life where they'll play a game with you, but it's not their jam, you
It's for
know.
you. They're playing the game for you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh Mando, yeah, you need another player. Sure, I'll sit in.
Yeah, I'll play with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
But what do you find, like it's very interesting because I also have those people in my life, and which is also why I love when I have a game that has a solo variant, if I know that
Yep.
there's no one around that's going to really want to play with me and I don't want to make people play. But it's so interesting because there are so many games in the world. So I always find it funny when people say like, "Oh, I don't like board games," because I also have friends that won't play with me because they don't like board games. And I'm like, well, what have you played? Like what happened to you that
Yeah,
made you
right.
want to play?
Like, well, how did you get traumatized? Like, is this like
Yeah.
PTSD or something? Yeah,
Yeah, who hurt you? That's what I'm always thinking. Like,
yeah.
who did you
And
play
then
with?
I just have this image of like this stack of board games like physically falling on them when they were a kid. It's like, oh, that's why you don't like board games, you know?
I always think when they were kids, they must have had some bad like risk experience or something must
Yeah,
have happened. Yeah. Or
yeah. Or
Monopoly.
Monopoly, yes, the game that would not end, and they just totally traumatized after that.
And there was someone that was like, no, we're gonna finish. We're gonna wait till everyone's bankrupt. And they were like,
Yeah,
oh God.
exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah.
So funny. And so you play a lot of board games. Do you play RPGs ever? Or do you find that you're more of a board gamer than an RPGer?
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm more of a board gamer, but I did play RPGs as a kid.
Yeah.
I did, and now, thankfully, thanks again to Renegade, I'm playing in Wardlings,
Yeah, or
right?
Thirst Tales. Yeah.
Thirst Tales, and it's really opened my eyes up again to the whole TTRPG thing, and I absolutely 100% love it. It's so cool. It's such a different it's like a different mindset from board games. Like board games, you look at board games, you have limitations. You have a board or you have cards or dice or whatever, and you have a certain set of rules that you must follow because you're working within that space.
Mhm.
Whereas tabletop role playing games, it's all up here, right? It's your imagination. Like you can try, basically anything as long as you have, your GM or whatever, and they're going to talk you through it and say, okay, I'll let you try that, but you got to roll this, this, or that, or, tell me more about how you're going to figure
Yeah,
this out.
explain how that's going to happen and how it will work. Yeah.
How does that work, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that's different for me, and it's exciting to me because I'm used to, well, can we do that? Let's check the rule book. Oh, right here it says on page 3, nope, can't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, your worker doesn't go there. But with tabletop role playing, it's like, I want to try this with my character. I'm going to try to jump over this thing. Okay, cool. Explain to me how you do it, and then I'll make it a dexterity check. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like here's how it's going to happen. And I've been very fortunate to be part of the Wardlings campaign because mainly, I'm hanging out with Victor, Irene, and Heidi, but also because our GM, Victoria Rogers, is absolutely amazing. She's such a great GM, and she does so many cool things and that I pick up on. It's like she's really propelling the story forward, but she also gets each of us to, from our character's point of view, how are you going to do certain things? Tell me what that looks like, and then it's a really neat, it's the whole storytelling thing is so cool to me and so fascinating to me. And I'm loving it. It's a world that I'm not too familiar with, but I love being part of it. I'm learning, just like this whole streaming thing and doing board games every day. I'm learning every day, Amanda, like all this new stuff. I think it's so much fun.
I love how so many, like you have so many learning experiences in your life right now. I feel like this is actually a really good time for stuff like that though. Like it's very therapeutic to have all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, when the pandemic hit, I had Duolingo and I was learning, got my Spanish going on. And then, I thought I was gonna be fluent by now, but no, that didn't happen. But, but, it is a great time for learning and, and board games, if, as you play a game, you're learning a new game every time you open that rule book. When you get a new game, it's like relearning stuff. And with, role playing, it's such a new world to me. And I've got, hey, I just happen to have this right here, the Wardlings campaign guide. And it's so beautifully written. I just love reading like sections of it, passages of it. And, it really, it's been eye-opening to me, like how limitless tabletop role-playing games are.
They really are. There really is. It's very interesting too, because I also used to work at a board game cafe in downtown Toronto where I would teach board games to people.
Was it Snakes and Lattes?
I did work at Snakes and Lattes.
Oh, okay, yeah. I wasn't supposed to, sorry, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say that.
No. You can say Snakes and Lattes. I wasn't sure. I was like, should I say it or should I not say it? But yeah, I worked there. I don't need to hide it. I worked there for years. So
nice.
Yeah, it was really fun. And one of the interesting things though, is people would come in and they'd want to play because, Stranger Things came out and Dungeons and Dragons is like this new hotness again. So people would come in and they'd be like, do you have Dungeons and Dragons? And I'd be like, so Dungeons and Dragons is kind of a different thing. Like we have Dungeons and Dragons themed board games. So like you could play Lords of Waterdeep, which is really good if you want to immerse yourself in that world, but not, play a TTRPG. But I'd have to explain to people the difference. And then they'd be like, oh, so, but then how do you play it? Like what are the rules? And I'm like, well, that's the thing. There aren't really rules.
Yeah.
So you need to find someone who can just walk you through a game and there's no real right or wrong. It's whatever your game master says is fine. And people just, you would watch people's minds explode when you would explain to them that it's really like you're telling a story cooperatively. That's what's happening. And sometimes not cooperatively, but usually I think you're trying to be cooperative.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very interesting when even people want to engage in that are coming from the other side of it, because they really are. There is a lot of overlap, I think, between role playing and board games, especially if you're someone like myself. Like I really love themed board games. So anything that really leans in well to a theme, that is definitely, it doesn't matter what that game is. I'll probably love it because I get to play a character. And I love role-playing games because I get to play a character. And I love being an actor because I get to play a character. So it's all of those overlapping things. Do you find that there are moments when you're playing Wardlings or when you've played any RPG where you feel like there's a bit of that overlap for you? Like you're having fun in the same way you would when you're playing a board game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just, you're at a table with your friends and, you're connecting over this. You have a especially for cooperative games, you have a common goal, right? Let's
Mhm.
try to figure this out. And like a good board game, it's going to be sort of like a puzzle. You've got all these different bits and pieces. Like, how are we going to fit this way? What are we going to do in order to
Yeah.
defeat the dragon or whatever it is? So that is very similar. Like there's a similar, how do you say it? It's just a really similar feeling of like when accomplishment when you do.
Objectives and goals. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
how
yes.
do I get here? And you want this and I want this. So how am I going to
Right.
get over there? Yeah.
Yep.
To get the
Yeah.
goals
So
that
we
I
got,
want.
how do we go from A to B to C to finish something? And,
Mhm.
we're going to do it together. And yeah, and that's the really cool thing about role-playing games is that, you don't have a board where you just, okay, I've got to roll dice and go here and there. Like, I'm
Mhm.
just going to say, hey, we're going to walk, we're going to walk into this dungeon and now we're going to, what's up, GM? Now what? It's like,
Yeah.
treasure, oh, it's not going to be
Yeah.
that easy. First you got this.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a trap. Oh, darn,
Yeah. And you see stuff and it's like, okay, well, you have to get over there. And you're like, okay, well, what's around me? And it's like, well, you've got a rock and you've got like this, this painting on the wall. And you're like, all right, what am I going to do with this rock and this painting on the
Yeah.
wall? Like,
Yeah. And
how
it's
do I
definitely you,
find gold with this?
right? Yeah, you're definitely using I mean your imagination more. I mean it depends, but really for tabletop, I mean you really have to think about all the things around you. It's you really get I feel like for me, yeah, I get more immersed in the role playing because it's really, the world is inside your head, right? And
It
everything is
is. Yeah.
oh, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
whereas the board game, it's everything is basically laid out for you, right?
But
You know,
it's true. You're right in the same sense that when I think when it comes to tabletop RPGs, in terms of problem
yes.
solving is very similar. The only difference is if in a board game it's like these are the things you have and these are the limitations. If you just took those away and you said all of that's gone. So now instead of it being like, oh well, I have to follow these steps and I have so many rounds, it's like no, you've got three things. How are you going to use them? Go.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you are this person. How would you do that as you? Go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been a bit that's exactly it. And you said it's much more eloquently than I did. It's problem solving, right? That's
Problem solving. Yeah.
yeah, problem solving, that is it right there. And that's the interesting thing about it is like, especially, if I'm playing Euro games, like everything's there. You're trying to make everything as efficient as possible. I want to, put this cube here to get more of these cubes and I can turn those cubes in for cards, blah, blah,
Oh
blah.
my goodness.
That's
Yeah.
that's different than role
That's like
playing.
every like UE game I play, I'm all just about like how few moves can I do this in? And you're
Right.
busy doing this, I'm gonna do it in 2 moves. And it's all
Exactly.
about economy.
Economy, yes.
Whereas, yeah, although I think that can also play into RPGs in a really interesting way because there's definitely times when I've gone about something in a roundabout way. And sometimes you find other paths that way, but there are times when you're like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to make 12 steps. And I find when I play RPGs anyway, sometimes I overcomplicate things. And then
Oh,
I'm like,
really?
yeah, I could have, people are like, why didn't you just use the knife to cut the cord? And I'm like, oh yeah, I could have used the knife. I'm
I
like,
just imagine you doing like this, like Rube Goldberg contraption to do something like
yeah,
super simple, right?
that is the way that I approach things sometimes. People are like, interesting, you decided to go the most complex route. Um,
Right.
do you find there's any characters or any specific types of characters in role-playing games or in wordlings right now that you find you're very intrigued by?
The one that I'm playing right now, Mtaru Understar, is really that. I mean, I created this character because I was totally fascinated by this. So he is a Midbari rogue, right?
Okay.
So the Midbari is, they're from like a desert region. And I was like, okay, cool. That sounds cool. But then just the whole rogue thing, like, again, I'm still new to this. And like, okay, the rogues are sort of sneaky. And since the wardlings are like, kids, they're like, tweens or so, right? It's so
Yeah.
cute. And I just, I imagine him, and Taru being, since he's a rogue, being really good at hide and seek, right, as a kid, right? So he's, I was able to say, hey, Mtaru is now the 3-time reigning hide and seek champion of 3 different villages. He just apparently goes to hide and seek competitions and wins them all the time because of his roguelike skills. So it's, I mean, all of those characters are so fascinating to me because, again, I'm coming in, fresh perspective, brand new eyes here. But I don't know if there was any one thing in particular that attracted me to the rogue. I sort of like that whole like slip in at night, and you can sort of spy on people or whatever. And not that I
Yeah.
want to spy on people, but
But the
it's
subterfuge elements
so
of it.
yes, thank you. Yes, you're so much better at this than I am, Amanda. Thank you.
Oh, no worries.
But yeah, that type of characters, it's fun. And then what's really fun for me is just dealing with all the other characters in the party. Like, how do our personalities, how do our traits mesh with each other? And that's every week. It's really cool, like to see us, oh, we're going to try to accomplish this task, problem solving, and together we're going to do this. So maybe one person's going to be a little more straightforward, punch punch punch, where I'm going to be a little more heightened in the cut, a little laid back, and then someone else, I mean, the bard's going to be singing, doing this thing or whatever. But so
As
that's it's
bards
really
do.
yeah, right. That's their jam. So it's been really fun to see that interaction between all our characters, and they all fascinate me. They're just, it's so much, so cool to see.
That's so great. And how long has it been since you played an RPG before you played Wordlings?
Ooh, boy, I'm really dating myself. We'll say many moons ago was the
Many
last time I
moons
played.
ago.
Many
Okay.
moons ago. Yeah.
Do you remember the last one that you played?
D&D. It was
Yeah,
it was
D&D.
D&D. Yeah, it was like standard vanilla D&D.
Okay.
Sort of like, so you think of Stranger Things, sort of like that, but with like a lot less imagination and no actual like demons and stuff.
Yeah. So you were playing like probably an older version that was very like dry.
Super dry, super dry.
Yeah.
And again, like we just, as kids do, we looked at the basic rules and we just end up playing our own version of it. Oh yeah, we'll just roll a bunch of dice and
And we'll
I'm
figure it
gonna hit you
out.
here. Yeah, yeah. So.
Yeah. That's the best way to play an RPG though, when you're like, we're just going to throw these rules away and figure it out.
Right. And again, it's all about having fun, right? I mean, that was half
Yeah.
the fun, was trying to figure out the rules. Like, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel that, like, if you remember that experience, how do you feel how Wordlings compares to your experiences when you were younger with D&D?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say the experiences are similar in the whole like wow, like just discovery, right? Discovering this world and jumping into it. And I remember as a kid, we we fought what it was like a dragon or whatever. And I just remember like video games at the time, the dragons, they look really cheesy because the video game graphics weren't near what they are today. But
Yeah.
then when we were playing on, as a role-playing game, that imagination really kicked in. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of this dragon like that. And so now in Wardlings, that hold the power of discovery through your imagination. Again, those are the two similar things. I'm much older now, and my imagination hopefully is a little more refined or whatever. But it's the similar experience where I really enjoy, going into the world and just exploring and seeing all these things and working with my friends, and to try to solve problems and see what's out there in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're all trying to do in life.
Right?
Weirdly enough, right?
Yeah.
Always so interesting. It's always so interesting because I always say that tabletop role-playing games are basically like a different way of doing therapy, because you always discover new things about yourself and about the people you're playing with, and just about like how you would see or problem solve certain issues as they come up. So, and I think especially approaching that from a children's perspective is very interesting. There's a lot of stuff that you go into with like who you were as a kid, who you are now, the growth, and all of those interesting elements. So it's interesting.
Wow. That's like way deep. I was just thinking like role-playing games as therapy. That's just like
It's
my
very
mind.
much, I mean, I was interviewing Little Red Dot a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about all these different role-playing games. And I was saying I'm playing a game called Masks right now, which is by Magpie Games in our role-playing group that we play with. Anyways, it's very interesting because it's teen drama, and because it's very dramatic, like everything that you do usually has some big consequences, and there's lots of people you interact with, and everything is, we had like this thing the other day where at the calf, someone came up to me and said something about my parents and you're all superheroes. So it's very dramatic, but goodness, there is a lot of therapy happening in this as we're playing it, like just in the characters that
Wow.
my friends have decided to play, especially when you have a group of people that you play with and you play multiple games with. You discover so much about those people through the characters they decide to play and the choices they make. There's
Interesting.
I don't know if you felt when you've been playing Wordlings, but do you feel like there are ever moments you have when you're playing the game where you're like, oh, That's so interesting because am I doing this because it's an exploration of like, is this what I would do? And is this element of my character me? Have you had
Yeah,
those moments yet?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I,
Those
I,
are the
I
big moments.
yeah, totally. Like where, we're in a certain situation and my character reacts one way. And
Yeah.
then, as I'm saying it, I'm like, huh, was that me? Like, is that how I would react in this situation? Or,
Yeah. Yeah. Where
oh
do
wait,
those things come from? Right. It's always
yeah,
interesting to explore.
right.
Um,
And just, thinking about how like when I played D&D as a kid and now I'm an adult playing Wardlings as a
mhm.
child character, that's fascinating, right? Like, back in the day
Yeah.
I was like, that was like the pure, hey, there's little Ruel playing, D&D, but
Yeah.
now it's, old man Ruel playing Wardlings, but
Little
as
wordlings.
right.
Yeah, that's also very interesting. The age even that you play when you play different RPGs and what you find in approaching something from a different standpoint than where your character is, right? And I remember when I was younger, I played D&D and my first character was, a grown woman and I was, a 17-year-old kid. And now I play and I'm playing like a 15-year-old teenager and I'm, a 29-year-old woman and I'm like, this is so interesting. How I
So
see kids
r-
and how I see me and all of those things.
right. And
Yeah.
and so you're drawing upon your experiences, right, from when you were 15 into
Yeah,
this,
a
right?
little bit. And then also drawing upon, I think it's interesting when you play a younger character, that idea of drawing upon what you think that was, because, we have memories, but as time, our memories are going to change. And
Yeah.
memory is so flawed as a thing
Yep.
to, I mean, and I say that in a fond way of memories. I don't dislike memories, but your memories they change over time for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that element. And then there's that element of, if I were this character at this time, what would I want to explore? Almost putting yourself back into that age. So there's the expectation for what that age is supposed to be. And then
Yep.
there's that genuine curiosity of you as an adult wanting to revisit
Yeah.
time in your life, right?
Right, right.
That
And like you
nostalgia.
said, I mean, memories are flawed, right? We tend to look at certain things through, rose-colored glasses, right?
We
So,
do. We do.
yeah.
Or sometimes, these sort of like skull glasses where we're like, that was the
Yeah.
coolest thing ever. I
Right.
remember, especially when you're younger too, and you look back on things seem so dramatic. And now I look
Yeah.
back and I'm like, that wasn't dramatic. It
I
was
know,
just a
right?
math test. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
right. Yeah. It wasn't the end of the world,
Yeah, I still have never used parabolas, so I'm pretty sure it's fine.
Right. Well,
Right?
what about that the game you're talking about? So it was like a teen drama. Was it like Mean Girls? Are you playing like Mean Girls, the RPG, or
No, although I did
no?
hear about when I was talking to Little Red Dot, this teenage witch game that I definitely want to play that sounds like it might be a little bit of that, which sounds
Okay,
amazing. But
gotcha.
Masks is you're all superheroes and you can be different kinds of superheroes. So there's definitely, because you're teenagers, a bit of mean drama. But the instance that happened with me and my character was more my character's parents. I basically have sort of a superhero dad and a supervillain mom, sort of, or my mom was a supervillain for a moment when I was
Okay.
much younger. And so this person came up to me because my mom had done something that had hurt people that they loved. And so they were approaching me at our superhero high school being like, you have to atone for basically like your mother's sins.
Oh wow.
And my character already knows all of this because I'm a legacy superhero. So I have like a lot of stuff on my shoulders.
Yep.
So it was a very dramatic moment because my character already feels a lot of guilt. So I just had this like super guilty moment. And of course, all of
Wow.
my superhero friends are like, you can't talk to our friend that way.
That
So,
sounds
there's like,
amazing.
is there going to be a fight? There's like all of
Right.
those tension
Yeah.
moments.
Ooh.
Yeah, very tense. So, I mean, I'm assuming Wordlings probably has, because it's not teens, because you're a little bit younger than that, you probably get a lot of the whimsy of being young with Wordlings, which is also
Yeah.
something I really want to play because goodness, I need that whimsy right now. This is a good time for
Right.
whimsy.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of like, I mean, that's why I'm enjoying it so much because we have those so many whimsical moments, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
we are kids and, doing silly things, but, in the context of, hey, we've got these magical powers too. This is sort of
Yeah.
cool. And
You're
we're,
kids, you're powerful, you're saving the world, but you also get to have those like silly, fun, just honest moments,
yeah. Yeah.
which is
And
great.
like one of my favorite moments is when Victor's character Xylo, we were like sort of teasing him because we think, we thought he had a crush on another girl, on this girl. We're like, ooh, look, Silo, look, she's looking at you, sing her a song, and of course he fails his check and it's like, totally off kilter and off key. Moments like
Yes.
that. Oh, so good. So funny.
I love that. I always think too in role-playing games, people always say when you hit the roll, it's like the best moment. But I'm always like, no. It's always when you miss. Those are the best
Yes,
moments.
absolutely. I agree.
When you roll a nat one and you're like, oh goodness.
Yeah. It's like,
how will I recover?
yeah. It's like, yep, I did try to do something epic. I ended up face planting right here in front of everyone. Yep.
Yeah. Those are the best moments. And the last time we played Masks, pretty much every moment I had in that game, I was failing a lot of stuff. I had one really good moment, but the rest of them were fails. But it's also good when you have games that allow you to experience those moments in an honest and fun way and not in a way. Sometimes D&D, I feel like, can be a tough game because it's very harsh sometimes on you, depending on who's GMing.
Right.
But it can be really harsh on players. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have so many awesome Renegade experiences, it sounds like. So now we got to ask the hard questions, which are, what are your favorite 5 Renegade games?
Oh, gosh.
Off the cuff.
Off the cuff, yeah.
Off the cuff.
Off the cuff.
Take it out and
go. Don't mind me. I'm just going to look over here. So off the cuff, I've got honorable mentions. I've got a couple of honorable mentions. I love Athenium Mystic Library, which is going to be out very soon, or I think it is out now. I love books. I'm a book nerd, so anything with a library theme like Athenium Mystic Library or Ex Libris or Spell Smashers. That's another one that's like you're spelling words and trying to fight monsters and stuff.
I love Spell Smashers.
Yeah, same, right? I mean, I was like a Scrabble player back in the day, and I mean, not a good one, but I really love playing word games. So when you introduce a word game with a fantasy theme, I'm all about it. So that's a couple of my honorable mentions, as well as another one that just came out, Gudetama, the tricky egg card game. Yay! That's like the cutest game ever. I mean, that little egg. Oh, our daughter Lauren, she studied in Japan a couple of years ago, and we went to visit her. She introduced us to that character, and we're like, okay, yeah, we know what it's all about.
Yeah, that's so awesome. You gotta meet Gudetama. Oh my goodness.
Gudetama, yeah. Other games that I really enjoy from Renegade are Stellar and Arboretum. These games are 2-player. Well, the Stellar is a 2-player card game. Arboretum can play up to 4, but they're like, for simple card games, they can be ruthless, like brutal.
And so complex, actually.
Right?
Like, I also love both of those games as well for the levels at which you can play.
Yeah. Like, especially with Arboretum, like, all my friends would call it murder trees, because those trees, they look beautiful, but no, you're going to lose a bunch of points if you don't play right. So those are my honorable mentions, folks. My 5th, again, this is just off the cuff here, off the top of my head. My 5th favorite Renegade game is Worlds Fair 1893. I love J. Alex Cavern's games. His games are just so elegant and, really simple turns, but there's deep strategy behind it. Also with World's Fair, it's educational. If you read the cards, you actually learn things, right?
Yeah, and it's really pretty. And
it's gorgeous. Pretty. Yeah. And it's
I was waiting for you to have that like slightly Euro in there.
There it is. Yeah. So it's like for a 40-minute game, it's got a lot of like deep strategic decisions, but it doesn't like overstay its welcome. It's like the perfect amount of time. My 4th favorite is Bargain Quest. This game surprised me because I didn't think I was going to like it just based on the theme. I was like, okay, yeah, we're like selling goods to adventurers. But Michelle and I got into it, and it's one of Michelle's favorite games, and I love it. It's so much fun. It's got that the card drafting element I like, and just trying to, sell the right items to the right adventurer. And then they go off and adventure and fight monsters. Like, it's a perfect combination for me. My 3rd favorite is the series, the Architects of the West Kingdom series. I love West Kingdom series. I like Architects. I love Paladins. That one actually hurts my brain, though, so I don't play it that much. It's really, And then the new one that's coming out, Viscounts, I've only played it once on TTS, and so I'm going to have to play it a couple more times in real life to really, see where that ranks. But I like the whole series. My 2nd favorite, again, off the top of my head, Raiders of the North Sea. I love this series. Worker placement, as we talked about, that's my jam. So Raiders of the North Sea right there. And I like it probably best with the Hall of Heroes expansion. It gives the little mead hall at the bottom there, extra stuff, more stuff to do. Always a good thing. But my number 1 favorite in all of Renegade's games here, drum roll, Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated. I love Clank. I love Clank in Space a little more, but the Legacy game, have you
I was
played
gonna say,
Amanda?
I love that you went with Legacy. I haven't played the Legacy Clank yet. No.
It's so good. And as a role player, you are going to love it. It's got all these, I mean, Acquisitions Incorporated, right? And it's got all the characters. And again, I can't go into spoilers, but I mean, you're going to be ripping up stuff. You're going to
Yeah.
be writing on stuff. And
Oh my
it's this
goodness.
progression of the campaign. I mean, it's one of the best gaming experiences I had last year. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite gaming experiences ever.
Is it your favorite Legacy game?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely my favorite.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love Pandemic Legacy, the story and everything, but this one took it to a new level. It was really like the way the characters work together or worked against. It just depends, but just seeing those characters evolve throughout the campaign was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. So that's my number one, Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated.
That is a big compliment saying it's your favorite Legacy game, because yeah, I've played quite a few other Legacy games. I haven't played Clank yet, and there's some really good ones out there. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to play it. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
play that
please
now.
do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you would. I think you would enjoy it.
That's the one area that I feel like in my Renegade library and in my playing experiences that I need to like pick up the ball on is I haven't played a lot of Clank. I've only played a little bit of Clank. I've
Okay.
enjoyed what I've played, but I don't think I've actually even fully finished the game yet. And I always
Oh.
start getting really into it, and then it's usually like, oh, okay, we're gonna go do something else. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I want to finish.
Right.
People are like, we have other things to play. That's fun. And now we'll move on. And I'm like, no.
Not
So
yet.
this is something I need to do because I do love what I've played of Clank. It's really fun. And the
Yeah.
tension, I just love the excitement in Clank.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's
you
where
were
the Legacy game is so good. It retains all of the stuff that you love about the base game, the tension. You know, you're pushing your luck, trying to go down, crawl through the dungeon, get all the treasures and get out before it's too late. But
Yeah.
it adds so many other elements to it. And, you know, the board evolves and, well, okay, I'm not going to spoil anything else, but yeah, it's just an ever evolving game. It's
That's so
good.
cool.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you have games like that, but there's a few games in my life that I've just enjoyed and never got to finish a game. And Clank is one of those for me, like a game that got away from me. And I'm like, just one day I'll finish it.
Yeah.
Do you
I've
have a
got
game like that?
I do. There's a whole side of the shelf you can't see here called the
Yeah.
shelf of shame or the shelf of
Ooh, the
opportunity.
shelf of shame.
You know, yeah.
Shelf of
Lot of
opportunity is good. I like that positive spin
Right?
on
Yeah.
that.
Opportunity is the positive way to say it.
All right, so we're going to be taking some questions from the audience, but before we do that, I want to give you that giveaway word for the bundle. So we have Athenia Mystic Library and Bargain Quest, which you heard both those games here. They're both great. I'm jealous that you're getting some Bargain Quest. Bargain Quest is amazing. Everyone
Such
needs
a
one of
good
those.
game. Yes.
Yeah. And the code word is hat.
Hat.
Do you have a hat for us?
Wow. You know what? Look, I just happen to have this right here, folks. This is the rating hat. Thanks to my wife, Michelle. She made this rating hat, folks, back in, I think it was like March or April. Renegade had asked us to play Raiders of the North Sea on live stream. And sure enough, I was like, yeah, that'd be cool if I had a rating hat. And Michelle's like, goes to Pinterest, types up some stuff, gets a manila folder, some duct tape, and I think it's like old Christmas tinsel. And within an hour, I was like, are you kidding me? This is awesome. So now I wear this all the time. Not around the house or anything, but you know, I wear it when we're on Twitch. And when people rate us on that channel, I do this whole thing. Hey, thank you for rating us. This is the rating hat. For you.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
You should do a video where she can show people how to make hats for themselves at home.
Yeah, she actually did like a real small bit on a Girls Game Shelf video where she talked about the different crafts she did. But I'm gonna have to,
awesome.
I'm gonna have to ask her to see if she wants to do like the full on how to. I think it'd be really
cool. I've definitely watched that. I love history and I love Vikings, so I would definitely make myself a hat. And now we are going to see what the audience has in store for us. So Desiree, do you have some questions for us?
Yes. So we have just a few. So Hornus34, I forget if that's your friend John or is that somebody else, Ruel? I forget.
I know Hornus34. He's a regular on the Twitch streams.
Okay, I always forget who's who.
Yeah.
But so he was asking, or she, I'm not sure who it is. How's Bruno?
Bruno is fine. Thank you, Hornus, for asking. Bruno is our pug, and he would show up every now and then on our streams. It was so funny. Like he just knew that at the time it was 7 o'clock. He would just scratch at the door. I was like, oh, okay, bring in Bruno. And we'd hold him up. Here's Bruno. But then he had some health issues, some with his ear, and he had an infection. So it was really nice. Everyone in Twitch would say, hey, how's Bruno? And they would, check up on him. So yeah, Harness, thank you for the question. He is doing just fine. He's in the other room doing what pugs do, sleeping and or eating right now.
So good.
Awesome. So let's see. So this is actually for both Amanda and Ruel. So we know that you love Legacy, or for Clank, Ruel. But what else is your favorite Clank map or expansion that you've played? Or for both of you, actually, they're asking.
Yeah. So I prefer Clank in Space just because I'm more of a sci-fi guy. I love that modular board where you can change stuff up. So that one's my favorite. As far as Clank, I like the Ape Lords map. The Ape Lords one is fun. That I think that was like probably the most recent one I played. So I like the apes. I just swinging around and doing ape things. Always a fun time. What about you, Amanda?
Well, I have, as you guys know, I haven't finished a game of it, but I will say I also really love, you stole my answer, I really love Clank in Space as well.
Okay.
I also really love, obviously my love for Search for Planet X comes from my love of Clue and my love of outer space, sci-fi, cool things like that. So I also love the sci-fi element to it. And I just think it's a more interesting map for what it makes you do, because it's a little more challenging to play. So as someone who plays way too many board games in my life as well, I find that more enjoyable. But everything's really good. I haven't played any of the expansions yet.
Okay.
I will say Apes is also one that I've heard a lot of good things about. I think that was one when we were at Gen Con, we like sold out of that like so fast because people were just like apes. Yep. What does apes add? Are there actual apes?
There are apes. Like there's cards that the ape like either weapons or Lord of the Apes and stuff. And then it adds like, certain things where I think it's gears or whatever. I forget it. Again, it's been a while since I played, but as you go through the map, you got to do more things to, get to different spaces. And then you could collect other things to get more points and stuff. Yeah.
So it just adds more layers.
Yeah, adds more layers, and it doesn't make it more complicated, which I always appreciate about any expansion. It adds things without totally like bogging down the main game,
Yeah. And is it optional? Like, is it stuff that you can be like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'll get this? Or is it everything? Yeah. Okay. I really love that. That's great.
I do too. It gives you like another path to victory, right? Like I can focus on this rather than, the base stuff.
Yeah. And then for people that you're playing with that are maybe like, no, I just want to do my thing. Then it's like, you can do that, or you can do this. Options.
Do whatever you want. Yep. Options.
I love options.
Same.
That's so cool. Desiree, any other questions for us? I love Clank. I love that. That was a question we got.
No,
making me want to play it more.
It looks like that's gonna do it for the questions today, which is good timing.
Awesome. So yeah, perfect timing. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ruel. It was really lovely talking to you about board games and tabletop games. I feel like so many things opened my mind. And also, did you want to shout out, I saw we were talking earlier about wordlings and you were talking about Bruno. Is that why your animal familiar in wordlings is a pug?
It is, yeah. So in Wordlings, folks, each of our characters has a familiar, right? It's in some type of animal. And sure enough, I decided, I wanted, there was no mention of pugs in the campaign book, but that's the great thing about role-playing games. You ask your GM and the GM said, yeah, why not? So I created a character named Bruno, and he is a pug. So he is my familiar in Wordlings. So yeah, I love it. That's
so cute. That's so great. I'm definitely going to have to jump in and join you guys on some Wordlings fun and jump into that chat. Yeah, because that sounds like it's really fun. And before we go, I just want to remind everybody, we do have Renegade Con from the 9th to 11th. You can get your tickets online. They're free. And we've also got our Morphin Meet, which was an event that will be happening from October 23rd to 25th. So all of you Power Rangers fans, come and join us. Join me, and we will learn all the Power Rangers things. It'll be amazing. And before we go, Ruel, can you just remind us a little bit of who you are, what you do, where we can find you, all that good stuff? I know you also have a Patreon if you want to, I don't know if you want to shout it.
Thanks,
but
man.
It looks really fun. You can play games with Ruel. That's one of the tiers, which I thought was cool.
Folks. Yeah. Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, no worries.
You can find me on all the socials at Ruel Gaviola, RuelGaviola. That's also my website. Just go there. You can find all the links to all the work I do. I do have a Patreon as well, Ruel Gaviola. And yes, as Amanda mentioned, you can play games with me. There's a certain tier. You go up to the bigger tiers, and yes, we will have our own hangout private game night, obviously on Zoom or whatever. But yeah, I'd love to play games with y'all. Find me on all the socials, Facebook and all that. And here on Renegade as well, every Thursday for Thursday Tales.
Ooh, Thirst Tales. Into it. And before we go, one more time, I'm going to give you guys that code word so you can get a bundle of Athenium, Mystic Library, and Bargain Quest. And the code word is hat. So put that in there. Wear the hat. Yes. Awesome. Hat. So put that in the chat, and good luck to all of you. And thank you so much for joining us. I've been Amanda McKnight, and this is the amazing Ruel Gaviola. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Desiree, for producing. We'll see you all next week.